We returned to the Philippines with over $1.3 billion in investment pledges that have the potential to create around 6,700 new jobs for Filipinos within the country. When realized, these investments will support our country's economic recovery efforts and further strengthen the foundations of our economic environment. We expect even more investment that will lead to materialize once these companies firm up their plans. Nevertheless, the interest is a welcome sign of their trust and confidence in the Philippines as an investment destination.
Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Magandang hapon sa inyo lahat. And thank you for this opportunity for me to be able to make my final statement on this trip from the Philippine delegation to the United States that we have just finished. So, seeing as dahil tutuloy nga ako sa UK, sabi ko maaari ito na yung kung baga hindi ako makakapag-arrival statement dun sa Maynila, kaya pagkakataon ko na lang ito na bigay ng statement tungkol nga dito sa nakakatapos lamang na bisita natin sa United States at sa pamahalaan kay President Biden sa pamahalaan ng Estados Unidos. So this brings to an end my official working visit to Washington, D.C. Over the past 4 days, I met with Joe Biden, the President, Vice President Kamala Harris, my counterpart in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Secretary Tom Vilsack, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and several other cabinet officials who joined President Biden in our expanded bilateral meetings. Our discussions were very productive. We are of the same mind that our long-standing alliance and partnership must be adapted to address the challenges of our time in order to bring about lasting peace and sustainable prosperity to our countries and to our peoples. The joint statement we issued outlines the key initiatives that we will pursue across all areas of our bilateral engagement to achieve these objectives. I look forward to having our respective teams follow through on the many areas of cooperation that we have identified. This will help advance our key priorities with respect to agriculture and food security, and to promote energy security as we transition to clean energy and boost trade and build resilience of our supply chains, enhancing connectivity and digitalization, also of climate change, mitigation and adaptation. In addition to existing bilateral policy dialogue platforms and working groups, we agreed to institutionalize a ministerial-level study group to advance cooperation on climate-smart agriculture, which I myself will lead. I also met with quite a few U.S. companies, both those looking to further expand their already valuable presence and operations in the Philippines, and those looking to invest in our country for the first time. They are all committed to be part of this development journey that we have embarked upon. We returned to the Philippines with over $1.3 billion in investment pledges that have the potential to create around 6,700 new jobs for Filipinos within the country. When realized, these investments will support our country's economic recovery efforts and further strengthen the foundations of our economic environment. We expect even more investment that will lead to materialize once these companies firm up their plans. Nevertheless, the interest is a welcome sign of their trust and confidence in the Philippines as an investment destination. Together, we will be working on addressing some of our key economic challenges, particularly food, energy, and health security, digital connectivity, and the cross-cutting issues of climate change and pandemic preparedness. The discussions that we had with the U.S. business community also affirmed the optimism which international investors view the Philippines today. It was with great pride that I received their praises for the talent, ingenuity, work ethic of Filipinos. This has become the main driving force for bringing their investments to our country. We also welcome all the initiatives to expand collaboration with the Philippine government and our universities to support the continued growth of local talent. These, complemented by our game-changing economic reforms, will serve as a firm foundation for an indomitable partnership. My visit would not have been complete without meeting with Filipino community from the U.S. East Coast, as well as some who came all the way from the Caribbean. I thank them for their contributions to the communities in the Philippines and in the United States. They continue to bring honor to our country in the practice of their chosen professions. They continue to bring a shine to the reputation of Philippines and Filipinos with their philanthropic work, especially during calamities and disasters that have touched so many lives. I urge our fellow kababayans here in the East Coast to continue to be our partners in promoting the country for tourism and investments. I then capped my visit with a speaking engagement at the Center of Strategic and International Studies, where I shared my reflections on why I think the Philippines and the United States has been and will continue to be naturally drawn to each other. Beyond our treaty alliance, we are bound by shared values and our commitment to mutual prosperity. I underscored my main message during this visit. The Philippines and the United States will have to forge closer economic ties and ensure that our bilateral partnership works for our people. That will bring a truly important alliance, a truly valuable partnership, and a continuing friendship into the 21st century. Thank you. I think there are a few questions.
Yes, Mr. President. We will open the floor for your press corps. First question from Ms. Daphne Galvez of Inquirer.net.
Good evening, Mr.
Hi,
President.
good evening. Good evening na ba?
After the U.S. and the Philippines finalized its bilateral defense guidelines, China said that the South China Sea should not be used as a hunting ground for forces outside of the region, and it opposed what it called as meddling in the issue to harm China's sovereignty and maritime rights. What can you say about this, sir?
Well, I do not think, as a Filipino and representing the Philippines, I don't feel alluded to. How can anyone say that we are not a party in interest in all of these issues? So I think that kind of statement was directed more towards the United States than it was for the Philippines. I think the Philippines actions are in continuing to strengthen our capabilities, to continue to find and forge partnerships with the United States, and both in the governmental sector and also with the private corporations that we have spoken to, as an important part of what we have been trying to develop in the past almost 1 year. And that is I think, only right and proper because we in the Philippines need to do this if we are going to go forward and find new opportunities for our people. At hindi naman masasabi na walang karapatan ng Pilipinas na gawin lahat yun. Kaya yung statement na yan, sa palagay ko hindi nakadirect sa Pilipinas.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, we have a question from Tina Maralit of Manila Times.
Hey, sir. Good afternoon po. Sir, prior to this trip, you said that you want the Mutual Defense Treaty to evolve. In your sit-down po with President Joe Biden, were there specific provisions of the MDT that you discussed with him? And if so po, what was his reaction?
Again, you have to, if the
The specific provisions, prior to this trip, you said that you want the MDT to evolve po. Were you able to mention
we're not yet
specific?
there. What we did in this trip and what we have managed to formulate are the guidelines pa lang doon sa mga magiging provision at saka magiging detalye. But the premise continues to be the same. It's a strengthening of relationship, and the word "evolve" is one that I have been using, and that other people have seemed to have adopted, because that is exactly what it is that we need to do. We have to evolve, and why? To explain it, is that we need to evolve because the situation that we face is evolving, and when I speak about the evolving situation, I'm not only talking about security and defense. I'm talking about trade. I'm talking about economy. I'm talking about climate change. I'm talking about all the other aspects of our society, of our economy, and even our government that we have to adjust as a response to what changes we are facing. Iba na ang mundo ngayon. Hindi na kagaya kung ano yung mundo natin noong November ng 2019, hindi na natin makikita yon. At talaga namang ayaw natin bumalik doon. Tayo ay tumutungo sa kinabukasan natin. At yun, kailangan natin kilalanin kung ano ang kailangan gawin dito sa bagong sitwasyon. Kaya evolve ang aking ginagamit na salita.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from Rayo Kiyomiya of Shimbun.
Thank you, President. This is Ryo Kiyomiya from the Asahi Shimbun, Japanese newspaper. I have two questions. So first, regarding the tension in the Taiwan Strait, at your meeting with President Biden and your counterparts, what kind of discussion did you have to deter the contingency in Taiwan, and how to react to the Taiwan Strait crisis? And secondly, at the meeting with President Biden, joint statement mentions a trilateral cooperation, including Japan and Australia. So what kind of cooperation do you expect, and what kind of role do you expect Japan to play for the stability and peace in the region?
I expect a developing cooperation. Patuloy ang pagpatibay natin ng ating pagsasama at pagpapartner dito sa ating sa iba't ibang bansa, na hindi lamang yung mga nakapaligid sa Pilipinas, hindi lamang ang ating karatig bansa, kundi pati na ang mga bansa na dati hindi naman natin nakakausap dahil walang pangangailangan na makaroon tayo ng partnership. Kagaya ng pagsagot ko doon sa nakaraang tanong, yun talaga ay nagbago lahat. Kaya kailangan natin ayusin lahat ang ating mga arrangements. We have to fix our arrangements, our alliances, so that they conform to the needs of the day. And that's again, we comes back again to that process of evolution. Because the situation is new, then the solutions have to also be new. And that is why we are now formulating those partnerships between all the different countries, not just Australia, not just the United States, also South Korea, also Japan, all of the ASEAN member states. And I think we can continue to do that. And I know that these countries that I have mentioned are already of the same mind. Pareho ng pag-iisip tungkol sa mga pangangailangan na natin gawin at kung saan ang pinaka makakatulong sa Pilipinas ng mga partnership. Sila rin ay ganyan din ang kanilang pag-iisip. Sila rin ay naghahanap na nga ng mga itong group na magsama-sama upang harapin ang bagong mundo na sabay-sabay. It seems that the message of unity that we were espousing during the campaign is beginning to extend to unity not only in the local situation in the Philippines but also in an international scale. Kaya yun ang naging talumpati ko nung ako'y nagsalita sa UN, na kailangan na natin magkaisa, kailangan na tayong magkaintindihan upang makapagtulungan tayo sa isa't isa. So, I think it is not only the Philippines that thinks that way. It's not the only Australia that thinks that way. It's not only the U.S. that thinks that way. I think every country in the world is thinking in those terms. At least most of the countries that have not that have continued to keep open relationships with their partner governments around the world are also of the same mind, and that's why I'm confident that that process will continue and will go from strength to strength.
Thank you, sir.